Oil prices have peaked amid the global energy crisis. In that backdrop, we're learning that days after unsanctioning Russian oil for 30 days, the United States has now issued a sanction waiver for the purchase of the Iranian oil. But there are two major conditions. One, the waiver is only for 30 days. And secondly, the waiver is only for the sale of oil that is stuck at sea. This could release tens of millions of barrels into global market to ease the war-driven disruption to shipping and production. And at this very moment, we're learning that China is the main buyer of the oil from Iran. But with this waiver, Asian consumers, including India, Japan and Malaysia, may benefit. But as far as historically, India was a major buyer of the Iranian crude, with the imports peaking at around 11.5% before the sanctions were imposed in 2018, and then we stopped buying the oil from Iran. So now we're learning that those sanctions have been lifted, but there is one condition, that it has been lifted only for 30 days. On that, let me go across to my colleague and consulting editor Srinjoy Chaudhary. Good morning, Srinjoy. After easing restriction on Russian oil just a few days back, now there is a waiver on Iranian oil, and as per the reports, India could be one of the biggest beneficiary of this decision. Take us through the details.
Yes, this is something, a new development and a very interesting development, because this is clearly an effort to ensure that oil prices worldwide stay down, that crude oil prices per barrel stay down. Currently, they have gone up from about $70 per barrel before the war started in these 3 weeks to over $110 a barrel. That's a huge jump, a very significant jump. Now, this move will ensure that maybe the prices could stabilize a little bit, perhaps for now. But in any case, the sanctions are for 30 days and apply only to tankers that are already at sea. Now, India, interestingly, does not buy much Iranian oil. Once upon a time, Iran, as you rightly said, supplied India with 10–11% of India's oil. Now it doesn't. But maybe this is an opportunity to buy some Iranian oil. If possible, if India buys some Iranian oil in these next 30 days, though it would have to be a limited amount, because these tankers are already at sea, and if they are at sea, they are going to a certain destination. They are not at sea for fun. So how India can benefit from this remains to be seen. But in case India does, it will be an additional factor. It will be a bit of a help. In any case, the Straits of Hormuz have to be opened if things have to stabilize permanently. If the Straits of Hormuz remain closed, India will have to depend on other places. Russian oil is an opportunity, and will be for at least a month before sanctions are reimposed. Maybe Iranian oil, maybe Canadian oil and natural gas. That's an opportunity too. So we'll have to see how this works out, because this is a particularly important situation. What it will do, the Iranian oil will maybe go to China. And if all of that goes to China, then the demand for of China's will go down. And that could help to, in a limited way, reduce the demand for world's oil and the prices too.
Absolutely. So it remains to be seen how this really pans out, because the waiver is only for 30 days and the expiry of this license will be on April 19th next month. Let me take you through what US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has posted as far as the waiver is concerned. He has said Iran is the head of the snake for global terrorism, and through President Trump's Operation Epic Fury, we are winning this critical fight even at the faster pace than anticipated. In response to Iran's terrorist attack against the global energy infra, Donald Trump administration will continue to deploy America's economic and military might to maximize the flow of energy to the world, strengthen the global supply, and seek to ensure market stability. However, today the Department of Treasury is issuing a narrowly tailored short-term authorization permitting the sale of Iranian oil currently stranded at the sea. At present, sanctioned Iranian oil is being hoarded by China on a cheap. By unlocking these exiting supply for the world, the United States will quickly bring approximately 140 million barrels of oil to the global markets. And that's a very important point, expanding the amount of the worldwide energy and helping to relieve the temporary pressure on the supply that is caused by Iran. In essence, we will be using the Iranian barrels against Iran to keep the prices down as we continue Operation Epic Fury. So this is also quite important. They are saying that they will be using Iranian barrels against their own country to keep the prices down. As we know that the Strait of Hormuz is currently blocked and there are several vessels that are stuck there. Because of that, there is a shortage of energy supply. This short-term authorization is strictly limited to oil that is already in transit and does not allow new purchase or production. Further, Iran will have difficulty assessing any revenue generation, and the United States will continue to maintain maximum pressure on Iran and its ability to access the international financial system. So that's another thing. So far, the Trump administration has been working to bring around 440 million additional barrels of the oil to the global market, undercutting Iran's ability to leverage its disruption in the Strait of Hormuz. President Donald Trump's pro-energy agenda has driven the U.S. oil and gas production to record levels. So this is, in fact, the clarification that is coming from the U.S. Treasury Secretary. He has gone on to say that today the Department of Treasury is issuing a tailored short-term authorization permitting the sale of Iranian oil currently stranded at the sea. So that is one of the conditions there. In fact, the war has sent the global markets into a frenzy with petrol and diesel prices that are hiking. In India, there's a slight hike in premium petrol up by 2 rupees, but a bigger jump in industrial diesel, which has been increased by 22 rupees. For now, there's no change in regular and petrol and diesel rates, offering some relief to the everyday consumer. But with the global oil prices between $108 to $119 a barrel, the pressure is clearly building. Back home, the political battle over the fuel prices is heating up. The central government has maintained that the premium fuel accounts for just 2 to 4% of the total sales and insisted that such decisions are taken by the oil marketing companies and not by the central government. The Congress, however, has warned that the regular petrol and the diesel prices could rise soon and the government may be holding off this decision until the elections are over. BJP has countered it, saying that the current changes will not impact the common consumer. Listen to the reactions that are coming in.
पेट्रोल के प्राइस में जो आप इंक्रीज की बात कर रहे हैं वो नॉर्मल पेट्रोल में कोई प्राइस इंक्रीज नहीं हुआ है, सिर्फ एक प्रीमियम कैटेगरी जो है उसमें कुछ इंक्रीज है एंड दैट इज हार्डली 2, 3 और 4% ऑफ द एंटायर पेट्रोल विच इज सोल्ड एवरी डे. तो वो ऐसा नहीं है कि पेट्रोल में आम जनता के लिए कोई प्राइस इंक्रीज किया गया है.
For these assembly elections to get over, the normal petrol diesel prices will also go up.
इस मौके पर भी सरकार ने प्रीमियम में 2 रुपए 70 पैसे बढ़ाए हैं, इंडस्ट्रियल पेट्रोल डीजल पे बढ़ाए हैं, लेकिन जो आम लोग पेट्रोल का यूज कर रहे हैं उसका दाम नहीं बढ़ा है.
Well, for more on this, let me go across to my colleague Kritika, who's been tracking all the details. Good morning, Kritika. In fact, despite the global instability, diesel prices in India and petrol prices have not been increased so far. But as far as premium petrol is concerned, that has been hiked by 2 rupees. And now the politics has started. Take us through the reaction coming in from the Congress party on that.
Well, yes, Akansha, in fact, the price of premium petrol, which government officials in the Petroleum Ministry have stated that contribute to only about 2 to 5% of total petrol users, have been hiked by 2 rupees a litre. Industrial petrol also. Now, industrial petrol is specifically concerns to, say, very large bulk buyers of diesel, say, telecom towers. That has also increased by 22 rupees a litre. However, the petrol and diesel prices for even aviation turbine fuel also, which is the normal category remains unchanged for now. However, we are seeing a huge political battle also unfurl, whether it is the left parties or in fact the Congress. All are alleging that the only reason why the prices of regular fuel has remained stable is because of the upcoming assembly elections. In fact, D. Raja of the left has also pointed fingers at the Modi government, saying that this reflects a serious lack of preparedness. Now remember, global prices of crude, the crude prices globally are also on a spike, and as a result, we are seeing an effect also on the premium petrol. Now, Indian Oil, which is India's largest oil marketing state-run company, that has clarified that they will be indulging in responsible pricing. This is a post that had come from their side on social media in order to assuage any fears of, in fact, a spike that could be seen in the coming days as far as regular fuel is also concerned. However, back home, politics, of course, is on the rise. The Congress has said that this reflects serious lack of preparedness on part of the BJP government, and the prices are being kept low only in light of the assembly elections. They've also stated that the way we saw, in fact, panic and hoarding along LPG is something similar can also be seen as far as fuel is concerned. However, the ministry, the petroleum ministry, is of course doing regular briefings and clarifying that this is something to do with global prices, but the net impact on a regular person is currently going to be low. Now, the reason why Congress and the opposition party says that it is not going to just be limited to, in fact, a spike in premium petrol category is because they say that with the rise in industrial diesel prices, this could have a cascading impact on the increasing input costs for other categories, which could shoot up inflation. This is the big charge that is coming in. And of course, today also we'll see more political war of words as far as the opposition and the ruling government is also concerned. But as of now, the government has clarified that this spike only limits to a premium petrol category, which currently only constitutes to about 2 to 4% of the total consumption. Over to you.
Absolutely, and that's the stand of the government, that there's nothing to worry about as far as the increase in prices concerned. That is only limited to the premium petrol and not the normal petrol or diesel. But the Congress party is saying that as soon as the elections are over, the prices will be hiked by the government. Thanks so much, Kritika, for getting us all those details. Now, as the fuel prices surge globally, several major economies are witnessing sharp rise in diesel prices. Australia tops the list with 40% rise, followed by Singapore at 34% and US at 33%. But here's the standout. India, despite global instability, diesel prices in the country have seen a 0% increase so far, holding steady even as the fuel costs climb worldwide. Now, let's talk about the petrol prices, and the global pictures tells a very similar story. Countries across the world are seeing sharp increase. Australia leads once again with 32% rise, followed by US at 24% and Singapore at 21%. Spain has recorded a 19% increase in petrol prices, while China, our neighbor, has seen prices go up by 10%. But once again, India stands out. Despite rising global pressure, petrol prices in the country have seen no increase during this period. And finally, let's look at the LPG prices across the globe. European markets are among the most expensive, with Greece topping the list at over $223 per barrel. India, meanwhile, stands at around $103, lower than several major economies in the world. Meanwhile, there is a gas crunch in Mumbai. My colleague Rakesh is in Mumbai and filed this ground report. Have a look.
गैस की किल्लत का असर अब सीधे तौर पर मुंबई के कोयला बाजार पर भी पड़ने लगा है। इस वक्त मैं शिवड़ी के एक कोयला बाजार के गोदाम में मौजूद हूं, जहां पर आप देख सकते हैं कि ये कोयले का एक गोदाम है। अब जहां पर एक तरफ सिलेंडर की कुछ कमी है, कमर्शियल गैस सिलेंडर्स की, वहीं दूसरी तरफ कई सारे जो होटेलियर्स, रेस्टोरेंट ओनर्स या फिर स्ट्रीट पे जिनके जो फूड स्टॉल लगते हैं, वो भी अब कोयले का इस्तेमाल करने लगे हैं, जिसकी वजह से कोयला बाजार गर्म हो चुका है। यहाँ पर डिमांड जो है वो बढ़ चुकी है। कहीं ना कहीं डिमांड सप्लाई में एक बड़ा गैप भी जो है वो अब नजर आने लगा है। ऐसे में खास तौर से जो कोयले की जो दाम है वो भी बढ़ चुके हैं। मेरे साथ इस पर बातचीत करने के लिए पारस जी मौजूद है। पारस जी, ये बताइए कि पहले कितनी डिमांड रहा करती थी और अब डिमांड में कितना इजाफा हुआ?
पहले दिन का 2.5 से 3 टन प्रत्येक व्यापारी का डिमांड था, और अभी कम से कम 9 से 12 टन का डिमांड हो गया पर डे पर ट्रेडर।
तो क्या सप्लाई जो है वो सफिशिएंट है, डिमांड को फुलफिल कर पा गया?
बिल्कुल नहीं सर। एक्चुअली हम लोग के जो गोडाउन है ना, ये गोडाउन इसीलिए है कि हम लोग स्टॉक चारकोल जब आप चाहो तब मिलता नहीं है, उसको स्टॉक करना पड़ता है। सडनली डिमांड आ जावे उसके लिए हम लोग पहले से ही केटर करते, स्टॉक रखते हैं। लेकिन इस बार हम लोग ने स्टॉक नहीं किया था, क्योंकि म्युनिसिपल जो अथॉरिटीज है उन लोग ने कोर्ट का एक ऑर्डर था जो बेकरी वाले पे था, आपने थोड़ा बहुत पहले सुना होगा, उन लोग के ऊपर उन लोग ने ऐसा लिखा था कि वुड एंड कोल शुड नॉट बी यूज्ड बाय बेकरी पीपल। तो जब उसको मराठी में ट्रांसलेट करते हैं वुड और कोल को, तो वो लकड़ी कोयला हो जाता है। तो लकड़ी कोयला मतलब ये है, और कोल जो बैंड था वो पत्थर कोयला था, जो खनिज होता है, जो जिसको डगरी कोयला मराठी में बोलते हैं। तो उस पे बैंड है, लकड़ी कोयला पे नहीं है। लेकिन म्युनिसिपल अथॉरिटीज ने वो समझा नहीं और जाके रेस्टोरेंट वाले को नोटिस देने लगे कि भाई रिन्यू नहीं करेंगे आपका लाइसेंस अगर आप चारकोल यूज करते हो। चारकोल में एक्चुअली पोल्यूशन है नहीं। इनफैक्ट चारकोल इज बीन यूज्ड एज एन एंटी पोल्यूटेंट। आपके वाटर फिल्टर्स में, आपके फास्ट फेस मास्क में, आपके टूथपेस्ट में चारकोल यूज होता है, ये एंटी पोल्यूटेंट है। फिर भी वो लोग नहीं समझा, मिस रिप्रेजेंटेशन हो गया, तो उन लोग से मिस्टेक से वो लोग सब होटल रेस्टोरेंट वाले को नोटिस देने लगे। उसके वजह से उन लोग का चारकोल का डिमांड कम हो गया, तो हम लोग भी स्टॉक करना बहुत कम कर दिए। और अचानक ये अभी युद्ध आया है तो हम लोग के पास ना स्टॉक है ना, तो ये एक बहुत अच्छा ऑल्टरनेटिव फ्यूल तरीके से हम लोग उसको सिटी को प्रोवाइड कर सकते थे। लेकिन वी हैव मिस्ड दैट अपॉर्चुनिटी बिकॉज अनफॉर्चुनेटली हम लोग इतना स्टॉक रखे हुए नहीं है।
तो ये बताइए कि कितनी डिमांड पूरे मुंबई भर में, क्या पूरे शहर भर में आपका ये सामान जाता है और क्या?
यस, 100% मुंबई में कम से कम 80 से 90 टन का मेट्रिक टन का रोज का सेल था नॉर्मल कंडीशन में। शायद ज्यादा भी हो, लेकिन अभी तो 3 से 4 गुना डिमांड है और इतना स्टॉक किसके पास है नहीं।
तो निश्चित तौर पे इसका असर जो है इसके प्राइस पे भी पड़ा होगा।
डेफिनेटली 5 से 10 रुपये का होलसेल इंडेक्स में प्राइस हो गया है। पहले 25 से 30 था, अभी 30 से 35 रुपया हो गया है होलसेल प्राइस।
तो मैं आपको देखिए एक बार तस्वीरें भी दिखाना चाहूंगा कि ये जो लकड़ी का कोयला है, फिलहाल इसकी डिमांड बहुत ज्यादा बढ़ चुकी है। कई सारे जो रेस्टोरेंट वाले हैं या सड़क के किनारे जो ठेले लगाते हैं, वो भी अब जो है लकड़ी के कोयले पर ही अपना खाना पकाने लगे हैं और लोगों को ये परोसने लगे हैं। खासतौर से जिन लोगों के पास इलेक्ट्रिक इंडक्शन अवेलेबल नहीं है, वो इससे एक ऑप्शन के तौर पे देख रहे हैं। लेकिन अब क्या सप्लाई अगर आगे कम रहेगी तो क्या इसकी भी किल्लत तो शुरू हो जाएगी?
डेफिनेटली, क्योंकि जो भी ये जो चारकोल बनाने का प्रोसेस है, कम से कम 20 दिन का प्रोसेस है। तो 40 टन जब बबुल का ही बनता है, गवर्नमेंट खाली बबुल का ही यूज करने के लिए अलाउ करता है चारकोल बनाने के लिए, क्योंकि ये एग्रीकल्चर को हानि करता है। तो इसको 40 टन लकड़ा जब हम लोग भट्टी में डालते कोयला बनाते हैं तो 20 दिन का प्रोसेस है, तो इतना जल्दी प्रोडक्शन होगा नहीं। और जो भी प्रोडक्शन है वो कहीं ना कहीं एब्जॉर्ब धीरे धीरे हो जाएगा, फिर बाद में ये चारकोल भी खत्म हो ही जाएगा समझो।
तो उम्मीद है कि तब तक जो है शायद हालात सुधर जाएं और वापस से जो डिमांड सप्लाई का जो बैलेंस है वो मेंटेन हो जाए। लेकिन तब तक के लिए फिलहाल मुंबई में जो खासतौर से जो फूड इंडस्ट्री है, जो खाने की जो इंडस्ट्री है, वो कहीं इम्पैक्ट ना हो, इसीलिए बहुत सारे लोग अब सिलेंडर से जो है चारकोल पे शिफ्ट कर गए हैं। कुछ लोग इलेक्ट्रिक इंडक्शन का इस्तेमाल कर रहे हैं, जिसकी वजह से फिलहाल कोयला बाजार जो है वो गर्म हो चुका है, दाम जो है वो थोड़े से बढ़ चुके हैं।
And meanwhile, American media report says that US Energy Secretary Chris Wright has described Iran's attack as terrifying, warning that the destruction is already putting the pressure on oil prices across the globe. At the very same time, he maintains that Iranian oil would have entered the market regardless, calling the current phase necessary but a very difficult moment. On that, let me go across to my colleague Srinjoy. Srinjoy, in fact, as far as the global prices are concerned, oil prices are concerned, they are rising. Take us through what is the situation in India and how is the government here handling the situation?
Yes, global prices are rising. And the fact that the Americans are telling the enemy, the Iranians, that look, all the Iranian tankers that are at sea can deliver to the places concerned, primarily China perhaps. Now that itself is a sign that the Americans are worried, so worried, that they are allowing their enemy to export crude oil. Now that is a significant moment. Now India too was very concerned about oil, and the fact that these 2 tankers were allowed to come in, and India did speak to the Iranians at external affairs level, ministers level, at the prime minister's level, is a sign that India needed those 2 tankers full of LPG. Now, of course, LNG, now, of course, the important thing is India will have to look at the world and see where it can get its petroleum. Now, Russia is a serious option, and what we are hearing is that Russian oil imports are going up, and going up quite seriously. So that's a positive for India. The other thing is there are other options that India now has. Canadian oil, Canadian LNG is a big option. And how that works out remains to be seen. But it is a major option for India. So there are other options as well. India will have to see where its oil needs can be met. If it's Russia for at least a month, that's fine. If it's Iran for at least a while, that's fine too. But there has to be a long-term solution because we don't know how long this war is going to go on. So if these options are on for a month, the Russians option is there for perhaps another 20 days. Then naturally, quite naturally, it should be used.
Absolutely. In the backdrop of unsanctioning of Russian as well as now Iranian oil, it remains to be seen how this really pans out for our country. But definitely you're right. We need a long-term plan and not a short-term plan because the unsanctioning is only for another 30 days. Stay on with us. We have